So hi everyone, my name is Kendrick and welcome to ENFJ Mail. Today I'm doing something different than what I normally do. And I'm gonna have a group discussion here with everyone that has NT sleep in their animal stack. So I'll have everyone introduce themselves in just a second, but the purpose of this video is actually in preparation for me to make that NT sleep video. This has been one of the more challenging video for me to make, and I want to be as info dominant as possible. So I got all these guys here to help out. I'm getting the tribe to help me with the thing, because the thing is the enemy, not the people, except for maybe Uzair and Rob here. But just kidding. But so
going after the deciders, I see.
yeah, for sure, man. Just like getting you guys right away. But thanks for coming out, guys. If I can get everyone to introduce themselves, starting with Kevin, I guess. Let's go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I'm Kevin. You want us to talk about our type, right?
Right.
My type is MF, NIFE, blast, play, consume, sleep.
All right. Rob?
I'm FF, FE, SE, play, consume, sleep, blast. I was typed last May.
So you're an ENFJ. So Kevin is an INFJ and Rob is an ENFJ. So next is Manley. Oh, he's having a sensory problem. Your audio's not working, dude. I think you're still mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry, guys. I'm Manley. I'm an ESTP. Feminine, SETI, consume, play, sleep, blast.
Gotcha. Next up is Joyce.
Hi, I'm Joyce. I'm NITI, double feminine, sleep, consume, play, blast, INFJ.
Gotcha. And then last one is Uzair.
What's going on, guys? I am an ISTP jumper, TINI, sleep, consume, blast, MF.
All right, awesome. So I'm gonna have everyone just share a little bit of some of your takeaways since getting officially typed. So let's start with Kevin first.
Yeah, I got typed last May, so it's been almost a year. I guess the first thing that it was just a shock because I thought I was actually Uzair's exact type. So I thought I was the most, introverted. I've had social anxiety my whole life. So the last year I've been actually working on that a lot, trying to overcome that and using sleep to see, I can see the thoughts that arise when I want to extrovert. It's like preventing me from extroverting. It's like, don't say that, So I'm catching those thoughts and just saying, that's the thing I'm trying to overcome. So I'm just going to go ahead and say the thing I want to say. So a lot of the work I've been doing is trying to overcome that social anxiety and working on sleep. So that's what I've been doing like the last year, basically.
All right, thanks, Kevin. I do see your personal growth, so I 100% believe you. Next, we got Rob.
Hey, well, after I got my type, I was trying to kind of type alongside the classes and kind of ended up hitting a wall and then took a huge break, but recently got back working on my website, subjectivepersonality.com, where I'm kind of trying to break down a lot of the pieces. I'm really seeing that as me sort of NTing a lot of the theory behind how all this stuff works for myself, just trying to build up those patterns. I really saw myself as NT before I was typed because of that like MM masculine inner world. I've done a few articles as well talking about that, so you guys can check that out where I kind of dig into that some more. Yeah.
All right, cool, Rob. I especially like your NT peacock there. Like you are like all NT looking. I love it. So your SF.
I got my Star Wars shirt on. I guess I can throw that out there.
Yeah.
George Lucas was typed as TINI, so.
Good stuff, man. Manley next.
Yeah, so I was typed about 10 months ago. I thought I was also a little bit more introverted. I didn't understand the system, obviously. I've learned and honed in on what blast last actually looks like, NF blast last. My biggest weakness has always been not able to actually communicate to others what I need them to do and hold them accountable consistently. That was a huge struggle for me. So that's what I've been practicing in business, going and interacting with employees and other colleagues and actually telling them what do without saying something like, hey, if like I would suggest maybe you do something like this, and instead actually saying you need to do this or go do this, and saying it with a non-double feminine tone. That's probably been the main thing I've been practicing, because last is it's rough, but I think I've honed in exactly what it actually looks like, so it's been good.
Sweet, dude. Yeah, man, go control the tribe. I know you're an EP, you don't want to do that, but you know, sometimes
Controlling the F out of them, man.
Yeah, that's right, dude. Next we got Joyce.
Hey there. Yeah. So I have feminine SE, so my memory is horrible. So I don't know when I got typed. Probably over a year ago. That's my guess. But yeah, I'm blast last, and I've been trying to communicate more. I opened a YouTube channel of my own. It's my full name, Joyce Meg. And I've been practicing blasting and conquering my demons one sentence at a time.
Yeah, Joyce is definitely killing it. I was so impressed. Joyce has like 9 people at one time in her like her videos. I was like, oh my god, that's like pure double decider right there. Like, how do you manage so many people in one go? That's her, you know, being IJ, you know.
That's way too much chaos for me.
Yeah, I know. She's
Yeah, that's max chaos.
See, the trick is you cut out all the chaos. Like, it happens, and then you pretend it never happened by just like erasing it from the film.
okay.
The control life.
It's control, eh? I didn't know that. All right, Uzair, what about you, man?
Yeah, what was the question actually?
Yeah, man, takeaways. Since
it was what did I get my type?
Okay, takeaways. Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, what are some of your takeaways since you got officially typed?
Oh, takeaways. Since I got my type, I've got so many, dude. Like, and a lot of them were just like learning the system, because I think what I think is interesting about OP is just understanding other people. You know, like I think, sure, I think it gives you a sense of like where you are in contrast, but I think the big insight I just got is like being able to understand other people in my life, and like why do they do the weird things that don't make sense to me, right?
Right.
So that's my general takeaway. Do you want to be more specific? You know, I'm not, you know, I'm demon sensitive.
Sure, yeah, if you want to go ahead.
I mean, I don't know. What else? I think that, just like, so I think what happens is that you get your type, right? And then you're like, how does it make sense? And then even, I pretty much got whatever type that I thought it was. I think what happens is everybody guesses TI and I, and then occasionally like 1 out of 4 people are, right? So, or whatever percentage. And so I still needed to make sense of what that means to me, you know? And I think just bit by bit, it kind of comes in. Like, there'll be a class about IPs, and I'm like, oh, okay, is that what an IP is? Like, I kind of relate to it, I don't relate to it, yada yada yada, you know? I could go on for a long time, you know, but I'll be respectful of the time.
All right, thanks, dude. Appreciate it. I am seeing your play last now, though, in a group setting. I think you're more energetic when it's just one-on-one than in like a group setting. So I think that's where your play last is showing up now.
Yeah. I'll ramp it up. I think there's a lot of you really brought the chaos today. Just kind of some context for. I don't think anybody knew that this was going to be recorded, right?
Yeah, that's right.
No?
Yeah.
Anyone?
I didn't know. I had no idea.
Yeah. So we'll definitely. I like it because I think we'll get a sense, because like normally, you know, we're gonna be on YouTube, like everybody is like kind of like maybe they have some like sense of like what they're gonna say and whatever, or like. So this is like a pure chaos. I think it'll be a really interesting little.
I've been thinking about it nonstop. So yeah, I've been thinking about it since he invited me. So yeah, my brain's been going 100 miles an hour.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
nonstop. Yeah.
Okay.
I see.
I've done zero prep.
All right, guys.
I wasn't intentionally planning.
Yeah.
It was just going crazy. Yeah.
So guys, we're gonna talk about the NT sleep itself now, and we're gonna start from the one that has it last, which is Kevin, and we're gonna work our way, you know, from Rob, who is an EJ but has that NT in a demon state, but it's third, so he has access to it. And then afterwards, we'll have Manley, EP, NT in a demon state as well, and then Joyce, and finally Uzair, who is the IP guy who has the NT sleep first. So Kevin, you have the floor. Take as much time as you need to talk about your NT sleep. I'll be taking some notes here, so go ahead.
Okay. I guess the first thing is it was a shock. I thought I was in sleep first, because Well, I think having social anxiety, I'm in my head all the time. I've internalized my extroversion. So I'm constantly thinking, I'm in my head. So I was like, when I got my type blast, play, consume, sleep, I was like, okay, I'm in my head. What am I doing? Well, I'm blasting all the time up there. So, but I think what I'm doing accomplishes what sleep is. It's just, I found a hack, I guess, to do it. So I'm trying to figure out how to actually do NITI sleep, just those functions and not blasting in my head. But it's been a challenge. I started trying to journal, which I had done over the years and never really succeeded at it because I think I was approaching it wrong. Like now I'm thinking about NITI. It's like, what are the patterns I'm seeing in myself and in others and in the world? And, trying to logic block bang on those and then seeing the patterns in my thoughts. So I've been doing a lot of journaling on paper, on a computer, and different apps and things, and trying to see what works, and just using a little bit of different things, using my phone, the video, when I go on walks and stuff, and just it's my first and third functions. So when I'm using, it's not that difficult when I push myself to do it. I just see that I've had this pattern over my life where when I have the thoughts about myself or, things that I need to process, I just push it away. I see those thoughts that are just like, I don't need to think about that. I don't need to deal with that. It's not important. But now I'm catching those moments where I'm pushing it away. I'm like, wait a minute. That's something I see the value in doing this sleep processing. So it's like, okay, I need to stop what I'm doing, get something to write or pull out the phone and start recording and just talking it out and trying to understand. Like a lot of what I'm doing is just seeing patterns in my life that I've never really understood or paid any attention to, and just trying to um, be mindful of those and look at them and say, is this logically sound? Should I keep doing these kinds of things, or is this something I need to address? Yeah, it's just a lot of trying to catch the things that I need to process is what I've been trying to do, basically. So,
All right, thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
I think the fact that you said that it's your first and third function and it's not the hardest thing to do, I do see it in people that I know in the class they've typed people that have, let's say Joyce, for example, she's blast last, right? But it's her first and second function, so
right.
she'll have access to it even though it's last. So the function stack still does matter. So I can see what you're saying, and it makes sense how it's easier for you to access it even though it's fourth. So thanks for sharing that. I took some notes here, and I'm gonna pass the torch now to Rob. So Rob, the floor is yours, my friend.
All right, slightly intimidated after going right after the blast first guy, but I'll do my best here. So I'm play consume first, and just sort of taking in tons of information, skimming around, kind of like Kevin was saying. He's just like really using a lot of these other animals to just pull in information. I feel sort of the same way, and sleep is like me then suddenly stopping and like really just trying to pull all of that stuff together. And it can be kind of overwhelming to do that, but it really is just like me updating that internal hardware, figuring out like what I've learned and what sort of directions I can go in next and what kind of makes sense for me. So that, like, if I were to put into like a sentence, I had noted here, like, it's kind of me forming my personal universal understanding based on my personal logical framework. So it's like the way I understand things and where things are going, just purely from my perspective, So a lot of that for me is doing things like writing, trying to form it out and like language is sort of a pattern in itself. So just like actually forming your thought into a logical sentence for me is kind of like doing that kind of thing. Because I'm pulling in all that information and just like pulling it into a single sentence that actually fits together. Yeah. So what else do I have here? feel like I covered that. Apologies. Oh, Kevin also mentioned kind of how he's sort of simulating sleep with his kind of blast and consume. He didn't actually say that, but that's kind of one of those things that you can kind of do to sort of access those two functions together. I feel like I kind of do that for my blast, where I'm sort of processing things and then I just kind of play out information rather than actually blasting things. Like that's kind of what I'm doing now. Like I process stuff and put it in my notes, and now I'm just going wild here with whatever I can muster out. But with writing, I can actually try and form that into something that will make sense to the tribe, hopefully. You guys can judge for yourself, I guess, on my site if you want. I'm not sure I have much else to add at the moment.
All right, Rob, thanks a lot, man, for your
Yeah.
sharing your anti-sleep. I like that you took notes and you were referring back to your notes because you do have it in a demon state, and I think that really helps for you guys that have it in a demon state to just to write it down and to remember what your thought process was. So I think that's really awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I took some notes on some of the stuff you said too, which is pretty good. So next up, we have Manley. The floor is yours, my friend.
Thanks, man. So typically what my NT sleep looks like is, I suppose because it's balanced, it feels like anytime I'm around other people, I am naturally obligated to play with them at all times. It looks like encouraging them, bouncing off of anything they say, giving them reason to feel like I understand what they're saying, and almost empowering them to keep going. So there's a constant bounce back and forth. When I'm not with someone, I very naturally slide right back into like a double masculine Ni+Ti sleep state. Usually what it looks like is I pull out my phone or I start reading something of any kind. So that's consume. I'm consuming. I like slide right into it immediately when I'm not with other people. And then at the same time, right when I finish consuming, which could be any period of time, I'll like slide right into Ni+Ti because usually I'm consuming things, probably because it's SETI that are relevant to my ST life. So I'm constantly building. It almost feels like I'm bouncing back and forth between the consume and the sleep to build like an Ni+Ti structure so that I can go out and produce SE value in the world in a cycle. And that's what it constantly feels like. I would say that every single day I go into an Ni+Ti sleep state at some point of my day, spend a few hours, which obviously is a small portion of my day. I'm not spending most of my day sleeping, Ni+Ti sleeping, but most of it is consuming and going out and playing with others. But I've kind of noticed, like I said, because the sleep is double masculine and the play is feminine. I actually won't play unless I feel like someone kind of pulls me out into it. It almost feels like my natural state, which doesn't really feel like it makes sense, is the sleep. Anytime I'm alone, I won't go and push to go out and do not sleep unless something out in the SE world is going wrong of some sort, which usually involves either my business or my wife wants to go out and do something, then I'll go out and interact with her. But I spend a lot of time writing down plans, which it's pretty much just using my notes in my phone for making structural systems inside of my business, or building out kind of like a philosophical understanding of my life and what I think existence is. And I would say it's kind of structural, kind of like what Rob was saying. It's almost like I'm building like an underlying strategy or structure to everything that I experience in the real physical world versus what I would consider like the more metaphysical cognitive aspects of life. Yeah, I think that's just about it for now. I don't want to talk too much.
All right, thanks, Manley, man. I like how you talk about the framework or strategy that you're building up is for the physical world. I think it's nice to see it from your perspective because you are not lead intuitive, you are lead sensory. And I think, yes, you do have that abstract world that you're building, but it's for the purpose of that physical world. It's not for, you know, any crazy land. You know, no offense, Kevin, just kidding. But you know, it's for something concrete. So it's nice. Next up, we have Joyce. So Joyce, you got the floor.
Hey there. Yeah. So I liked when Rob mentioned how it's like a personal universal framework. It does feel like that. And the framework almost operates like a filter. So everything you hear, it goes to like a true false filter. Like it either fits in with the framework where it is deemed true, or it's deemed false if it doesn't make sense with the filter. And so then you're left trying to make sense of why that information doesn't fit into your layered logic. And then you kind of have to figure out through either like a process of systematic doubt or through like kind of block banging it out, like why it's not making sense, or like why is 1 + 1 = 3? And you really need to like go through the motions to really figure out a way to incorporate things in a way that all kind of jive. Otherwise, it kind of feels like there's a traffic jam in your mind. It's like, oh, there for some reason like these thoughts aren't lining up, and it's like this urge to organize your thoughts. And so you're left kind of needing to sort out that traffic jam of when like when something didn't make sense to you, you're trying to like even it out. Or it's kind of like you have knots in your headphones and everything's like tangled. And so the process of sleep is like you're trying to detangle the knots in your thoughts, and then you're trying to like just kind of smooth out the headphones so that they're all in order again. So it's this process of ordering your thoughts so that they make sense. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Joyce. I have some questions for you later about that because it's super N. But well, I'll get to that later. So next up we have Uzair. So Uzair, man, take the floor.
All right. So I'm just talking about what sleep is, right?
Yeah. How do you experience empty sleep? Like, how do you use it? Is basically what I'm trying to say.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So it's my lead function, right? So it's gonna be a little bit hard for me to see what it is. So, and great descriptions from everybody. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that for me, you know, okay. So I think part of the thing with part of the thing like getting typed with anything is that the people who like if you're okay, let me move this up. So I think I don't relate to empty sleep being like, oh, just like kind of like thinking about things, like kind of like building like world. Maybe I'm doing that, I guess. But I kind of see that everybody's doing that. And I kind of see like
I think your sound got screwed up.
Oh, fine. That's right. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Is that just me?
Yeah, Uzair, I can't hear you. Like it sounds very like
You like unplugged it or something.
he's having observer issue.
Ruined, bro. You broke it. You broke it.
Is it back? Is it back?
Oh,
It's
perfect.
back.
Great. Awesome.
Don't
Yay.
move your
All
hand too
right.
much. I think that's
All
probably the
right.
problem.
Okay. Okay. No hand gestures.
Stop playing around over there.
All right. I'll hold it like this. Okay,
All right.
you get someone else do the sign language for me. Okay. So what was I saying? I think that yeah, it's hard to know what NT sleep is, to be honest. Let me tell you what I'm not doing. I don't think I'm like sitting around thinking about like my philosophy in life or anything. Like I don't know. I don't know if that's NT sleep or not. I'm definitely not. Don't think that I'm doing that. I think that what I am doing is like I'm thinking about like, oh, especially like sleep consume, right? Stacked is that stimulus hits me, right? Like stuff happens and I'm like, oh, I feel this way about it. And then the sleep is, maybe that's what we consume. And then the sleep is like, why do I feel that way, right? So I think that I'm doing that all the time, right? Like I'm always aware of like being annoyed. I think being sleep first and being play last, especially double activated sleep, is just being very grumpy. You know, it's just like you know that you're annoyed and you know why you're annoyed. And like, it's a little bit difficult to kind of like, it's not, I don't know. I think you can hide it, but it's just like you have a constant awareness of like being annoyed. So I think that it's weird. Like, why would that be anti-sleep, right? But I think that, I don't know. I think I do experience it that way. And I'm just gonna ramble on for a long time, okay? So since I didn't prep any of this. So so what else? Oh, and in contrast, when I see other people, right, like who are of the same quadra, I feel like it seems like, oh, that's a lot more NT than I do, I think, you know? So it's not like, is NT sleep really just like NTing your mind? Or I think, or can anybody just do that, right? Or just, is it, you know what I mean? I imagine like if I was like not typed, I'm sure you guys, when you, like, if you, like I know Kevin had this thing, right? Just like, I'm sure we all kind of feel like we are doing like NT sleep in our head, right? Like figuring things out, because that's just like a core part of like being a human, right? So I don't know if that portion of it is really NT sleep, because I don't think that I'm doing that particularly more than anybody else. But I think that where it does come in is that like, if you are asleep above play and you're like play last, I think a lot of the sleep or the planning or whatever is tied to how can I avoid like bad situations. It's just like let's say if you have like a little bit of chaos, right? Or like something bad happens once. I think maybe the sleep side of it is that how can this never ever happen again, you know? And then you'll kind of figure out like, why did that happen? Why did it piss me off? What happened? And how can it never ever happen again, right? I think that, or how can I never be in that situation again? So I think that portion is sleep. And then maybe you'll use like the kind of NT to figure out what those steps are and stuff. But I think that's the key thing. Like, I think it's not just, I think anybody, well, first of all, everybody can do everything, right? But like, I think that, like Jordan Peterson, for example, right? Jordan Peterson is like sleep last. I know he's not NT sleep last, but he's like, when I see him, I'm like, how can this guy be sleep last? He seems so freaking introspective. He's like thought everything through. He's like super organized. Like, I know he kind of like jumps around, but he has his thoughts very well thought through, right? So how the hell is that sleep last, right? And I think the answer is just that sleep is I don't know if that is that, you know. I think it's just like avoiding just the program that runs in your mind of how you can avoid chaos and how you can avoid situations the next time around. Yeah, I think it's just that. Anyway, that's my long ramble about sleep.
All right, man. So was there as crazy as your ramble was, I did learn a lot from you. That was so good. So so basically, guys, this is one of my big takeaways now, just like hearing all you guys talk about anti-sleep. You're all doing it from a different perspective though, because you know, Manley and Joyce and Kevin are observers, and Roqb and Uzair are deciders. So for Uzair, it seems like, so to sum up into one word, it seems like you guys are using anti-sleep to solve personal problems. Like that's what it seems like to me. Like you guys are using it to solve some kind of personal problem. You know, it's not for anyone. I mean, it could be, but it's for your own personal problem. Like Uzair seems to be using his anti-sleep to figure out his emotions, which is really interesting. You know, like he's trying to hack feelings with anti-sleep. It's a weird, but that's what he's doing. He's an IP, right, with that FE in the bottom. So that's what he's doing with it. Like Manley's doing it for his work. You know, like how he does it in his workplace. Joyce is just trying to get rid of chaos, so she's trying to untangle things in her brain. Let's see, what do I have here for Roqb? Roqb is trying to create his identity with that anti-sleep. He's creating a framework. He uses a universal framework. So he's trying to, and he keeps using the word updating his internal hardware. So he is building up his identity with that. You know, as an EJ, that's going to be the thing that he needs to work on, right? His identity. So it's updating the software essentially, or the hardware inside to create that like rich inner NT world. And then for Kevin, it's just thinking things through. I don't think, because Kevin said when he was younger, I guess he didn't think things through, like, because I guess the anti-sleep, but you know, he's block buying things in his head. He's watching himself talk in the video. He's looking at the patterns that he's seeing for himself. So it's a lot of self-awareness work for Kevin. So I have some things here that I took some notes on, just on the class that Dave and Shan has, and also my own personal consume on anti-sleep. So I'll leave the floor to you guys, and you can, it's up to you guys who wants to jump in and talk about it. But the first one I heard people say with anti-sleep is, if you have anti-sleep, you take very calculated risk. So does anyone want to jump in and talk about how you use NT-sleep to take calculated risk?
Are you saying everybody with NT, so everybody here would be that, or just people who have it higher?
It's just one of the things I heard that someone with NT-sleep tell me is that as an NT-sleep person, they take very calculated risks. And I have seen it personally with people with NT-sleep, is that before they take a risk, they'll use their ST consume, bring it into their NT-sleep, and then they'll figure out something before they proceed and take a risk. So it could be in investments, for example, like let's say you want to invest your money, or if you're a decider, maybe, you know, like you want to ask out someone on a date or something. I don't know. Like there's some kind of, you know, it's like some kind of people problem related stuff. So it's, you know, so how do you guys take calculated risk? How do you process that in your head? Like, how do you?
Can I can I throw that back at you for a second? Like,
Yeah,
do you think that if since you're not NT-sleep, do you feel like you don't take calculated risks?
That's a good question.
I outsource it to you guys. Like I talk to my friends that have it, and then you guys tell me what you're doing, and then I just take it for face value. My NT is play, right? So I take it from the tribe. I don't have it myself.
Yeah, the way I would interpret it is, before I take a risk, I'm going to want to NT puzzle it out for myself, whether or not it's appropriate to take this risk. You know, it's like, okay, I need to understand the logic. Is this logical? Do I see any patterns in this thing that I'm about to do that I'm willing to go? Like, someone asked me to do something that I wasn't sure I wanted to devote all that time to it. I knew I could do it, but I thought, well, it wouldn't be right for me to jump into this thing because I can see what that thing would involve. And I don't think I want to do all of that right now at this moment in time. So it's like, I'm trying to puzzle out, is this a risk I want to take? So I can see what you mean, Kendrick, that, yeah.
I'll say something about that as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kevin, I don't want to interrupt you.
Jump in. No, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking about it a little bit, and I have noticed, as an EP, I'm allegedly, you know, we're supposed to be the most chaotic, me and you, Kendrick. Something I noticed is when I observe a lot of other EPs that aren't on the Ni+Ti quadra, it does seem, I don't know if it's necessarily like it seems like they're more risky than me, but it seems like there's less calculated contemplation taking place before they make a certain decision. For example, if they decide they're going to do something, maybe on the outside it could look equal or maybe even a little bit slightly more risky than something that I might do. But if I were to ask them, like, hey, why did you decide to do this? Or what was your thought process here? What was your plan? Like, the response is not their plan. It's usually like, oh, well, you know, I felt good about this, or look at that, or there's this thing over here. And I'm like, okay, that's a little concerning. But did you have a plan? Like, was there something there that you kind of lined out so that you would know what you're moving towards? And it seems like there's something missing, which I sound like a douche when I say it, but it seems like there's part of the brain, and I'm like, there's something I got here that you aren't doing when it comes to like calculating risk, which is probably the best way to say it. But I think that was actually something that threw me off when I was trying to type myself. Is I honestly, I didn't think I was uncalculated, and I didn't think I was a risky type person, probably because I was observing other EPs that weren't my type, and maybe I was surrounded by them. So I was like, what the F? I'm not a risky, hypey, crazy person. But yeah, I think that's what I have to say about it. That is something I noticed in particular.
Yeah, man, you're surrounded by idiots for sure. Is it just kidding? But
dumb people everywhere, bro. Come on.
Yeah. But so yeah, you have every right to be concerned, man. Like, yeah. So you're spot on. I don't take the calculated risk. I don't have NT sleep like you guys. I don't go in and, you know, have very complex thoughts about how I'm going to logically proceed to do something. You know, I'm SF inside, right? So that's my guiding light, essentially. I get my NT from you guys, the tribe. So when you guys talk about your NT, I love hearing about it because I don't have it. So I'll just borrow you guys as NT, and that's good enough. You know, I'm not gonna think through it. And yeah, that sounds horrible, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's a lot of concerning things for sure that you should be concerned about. So
but hey, man, when you take risks, you're really popular when you do it, right? Because you're SF risky.
Right. So I guess yeah. So my risk makes me popular. So it's That's right. That's a good point. I never thought about that. That's a good one. Does anyone else want to talk about calculated risk here? Does anyone here like what do you do before you take a risk? You know, like what do you have any thought process? Do you have an order?
What I do is usually try and think through, and then the opportunity passes me by, so I don't do it.
It's very
That's cool.
calculated.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
blast I think for you, Rob. That like you did think it through, but you didn't do anything with it. So that's
Well,
Yeah.
or I like wanted to, but I just like didn't get around to it because I was doing like other stuff that seemed safer. You know.
Okay,
Yeah.
can you talk about that? Like, why did you pick the safe? Like, what made you choose a safer route? Because that is also anti-sleep, right? Like, for you to decide the safer route.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it doesn't quite make sense to me, and I don't really want to do something necessarily that doesn't make sense to me. So it's kind of like the TI in me that wants to think things through, and I'm like have the awareness of it, but I'm not always prioritizing that, you know. So that's kind of how I see it anyway.
What about you, Joyce? You have it first, so you definitely think things through. I hope.
I definitely, avoid chaos at all costs. Yeah, nope. I just try to pick risks that seem like they have a good reward or no risk at all. Like I'm afraid of risk that could be the end of me. I don't know. Sorry, that's bleak, and that's also vague too. But I guess I have people in my life who don't take calculated risks. They just like to risk things. So it makes me not want to be like them. And so I try to be cautious in a way where I don't have to create more chaos than I have to. So I think people sometimes they're the generators of chaos. Like they wonder why chaos is in their life. But I'm like, but you caused it. Like all of this, you're the common denominator. And people don't tend to notice that when they're the one stirring up the chaos. So for me, I just don't create the chaos to begin with. So the only chaos I have in my life is the ones that other people cause onto me. Yeah.
So like people like Manley then. Just kidding. But Joyce. So okay, you said pretty much you take any calculated risk that doesn't involve you like dying pretty much. So like that's pretty extreme. That means you take a lot of risk then in that case, because a lot of things don't kill you, right? So, but when do you take a risk though? Like do you have any concrete example? I'm gonna force you to ST here for a second. Do you have any concrete example when you did take a calculated risk on something, like you actually did it and you thought it through first before you pulled the trigger?
Yeah, I guess when I'm having fun, sometimes I can be a little risky. So I'm the one who makes calculated risks. I don't know. I guess at an arcade and there's a fun game, and then I kind of like to play. I'm a gamer, so that gets the best of me. I also, if I think the risk will lead to a good experience, I'll take it. Or if other people are taking it, and I've seen how it's okay, so I just take it. Or I just like to take, I don't know, it's kind of, it can get you out of your head. So sometimes when you're in NT sleep too much, you feel like it feels kind of mucky in your head all the time. So sometimes it's fun to take risks just so you can live a little. So yeah, like I guess getting into the sensory is something worth taking.
Okay, I see. Okay, so it seems like for you guys, it depends exactly on like which type you are. So like INFJs, for example, like Joyce, the risk taking is for fun. Like, is this like, am I gonna have fun and not die? Okay, I'll take the risk. You know, like for example, gaming is pretty safe, right? The worst thing can happen to you is probably like strained eyes, right? So that's it's not. I mean, it's still chaos. I'm freaking Joyce out now. She's not gonna play games anymore. But just saying. Okay, cool. Anyone else want to talk about calculated risk before I bring in another thing about anti-sleep that I've gathered and kind of want to hammer out with you guys? Everything's good. Everyone's good. Okay, cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, Rob.
Last there.
Yeah.
I guess what you're saying there kind of makes sense with taking calculated risks in terms of like where I'm going to show like TI that maybe I'm not wanting to show to people, as like kind of taking calculated risks by sharing it with somebody that I kind of am trusting, you know, like, so from an EJ perspective, that's a calculated risk, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love that one because
Yeah.
I need to take notes of that. But
I kind of forget I'm an EJ sometimes. It's like, oh, I gotta, oh, that's what I'm really scared of. I'm just like not thinking about that.
so the calculated risk that you take is to show people your TI. That's like to show people your intelligence. Yeah. And like your thought process, I guess.
Yeah, I think also, so I'm not sure if I entirely agree with the premise. Sorry to be annoying TI, but
no worries.
But if I were to go along with it and do some play, right? I would say that it kind of makes sense. Like if maybe like a TEFI person would be looking at us, probably all of us, if they're trying to figure out like, oh, what was your core desire that really made you make this thing? It's like, I don't know. I just thought it would make sense to do it, right? Probably all of us are going to relate to it, whether we're feelers or thinkers, right? That's the TI, because whatever, that's a TI-FE coin, right? Of like respecting tribe sentiments, and then you're navigating the way that you navigate tribe sentiments is through just whatever makes sense. And so that's going to seem like that's calculated part of it, right? And then what's a risk? That's kind of the SENI of like, what did you think was going to happen, right? So if you combine what did you think was going to happen to what should I do? That's a calculated risk, I think.
I see. So you kind of have a simulation in your head of what's going to happen, and then you.
I think that's SENI, right? It's just whether you're lead SE or whether you're like savior NI, like that's what you're doing. That's what the purpose of SENI is. It's kind of like machine learning of like, just take a bunch of stuff, whether you understand it or not, what is going to happen? What is the singular thing that's most likely to happen, right? That's what those coins are doing, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're constantly simulating it. Like you're building a matrix in your head and letting it play out and see what's going to happen. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's, if these variables are such, then this is what's going to happen. Yeah, you're constantly doing that. Yeah,
and I think that the savior SEs, they're also doing that, but they're just doing it in like a maybe shorter time scale, right? Like the IJs are doing it on a very like long time scale, and then the lead SEs are doing it on a shorter time, like on the almost the reaction level of like being able to predict and respond quickly, whereas the IJ is kind of doing it in a place where like they're taking it in, understanding it, then responding.
That's really well said, Uzair. Yeah. When he said, I'm not sure if I agree with the premise, I think that's what TI always says to itself. It's like, I'm not sure if I agree with the premise this person said here, or like the axiom of what they said. I'm not sure if I fully buy it. So TI is like this hesitancy with buying into other people's premises.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're that I think that's the thing with the TEFI, right? Or TI is that it almost feels like, wait, that's what you think? That's how you're walking around. That's like your understanding that you're using. Or is that, or what, like, I don't understand the question almost, right? It's like that, is this how you live? You know, like whenever I hear like a kind of like a not fully thought through thought, I'm like, do you live with this thing being true? And like, that's how you make decisions, right? But it's not, right? They're just like, it's just, I don't know what it is, but it's not that, right?
Yeah, man. No, I don't have those thoughts that you guys have. That's why I'm bugging you guys for this stuff, because you guys thought it through, so I didn't. So, but no, that's some really good stuff, man. So are you simulating first before you get the facts? Because you're NITI, right? So you're not getting the facts first. You're simulating first, right?
I don't think it works like that, right? It's just kind of like even being sleep first. You have to do the consume. What the hell are you going to sleep before the consume, right? There's going to be some data in first, right? It's like the chicken and the egg problem. So I think no, but I think that if I, at a certain point where I'm like, I think it's easier for me to predict rather than to go out and gather, I would prefer to do that. You know, it's just like what are known information mistakes, right? Known information mistakes are like, it's not necessarily things that you knew that would happen, but it's also stuff that you could have known to happen, right? Like that's like within within all the information you had, if you just sat and thought about it a little bit longer, you could have came to the right decision, right? So like I made a stupid tax mistake recently, I found out, and I was like really annoyed about it because it's not like this new thing came out and there's no way I could have known about it. It's just that I didn't ask myself the right question early on, and that was a stupid thing, right? If I just sat and really kind of thought about it a little bit better, or in a more kind of like what do you call it, like disciplined way, I could have made a better decision, right? That's the NI versus SE versus just like gathering it or asking a bunch of people, right? Or whatever it is.
Gotcha. Okay, I see. I see your thought process here. It's funny though that yes, but there are people that are consume last, and they do organize things that they have not gathered. So there are people who are organizing things that they just made up in their head. So,
but they're not completely making up. Consume is one way to get SE, right? Even if you're consume last, you're still like playing around with other people. Like you're asking, like other people are doing, like what's going to happen, right? What does consume even, right? Why does consume hit DI? Sorry, I'm just going to take over this entire thing.
Go for
it's
it.
because let's say I read a book, right? If I read a book, and so the book, let's say, by the way, then I'm gonna take some stuff out of it, and it's gonna build my understanding, right? Let's say if I'm TI. Then when I go to talk to you about it, and you ask me a play question, right? What I say, whether I reference the book or not, whether I tell you to read that or not, is gonna be embedded. I'm gonna be imbued with what I read, right? And so you're gonna get the SE, whether you're consumer or not. You're gonna get it through play. So like I think the trouble with the last animal is that you really don't need it, except sometimes when you really, really need it, right? And so like the consume last is like where they get screwed is that when they haven't consumed the thing that is actually not relevant to everybody else, but it is just specifically for whatever reason, that little thing is relevant to them and nobody else is going to bring that to them, right? That's where they get screwed, right? It's not just that they're not taking in sensory stuff. Like if they're, because you could be save your play, which is save your SE, and consume last, like they get screwed by the stuff that's like specifically not relevant to them. That, do you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know, that's what I think about that.
No, that's some good stuff, man. I guess it's pretty much just people that have play and consume in a demon state that would have more trouble with this than people that, you know, could have play in a savior state, because they could potentially still gather a lot just from the tribe that they can use to work in their sleep processing.
Yeah.
Cool. And anyone else have any thoughts on this before I bring in the next thing that I've gathered about people with NT sleep? Like I said, you're more than welcome to argue. I know like a lot of you are NT first, so you know you want to argue. That's cool. Okay, so the next one is I think the biggest NT sleep guy in the world is probably like the David Allen guy, the getting things done. I noticed that a lot of people with NT sleep in your animal stack are really obsessed with that system that ISTP dude created. I'm not sure, are you guys familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
The getting things done thing? Yeah. So do you guys think like that? Like when you make decisions, like, is it that meticulous to that level? Like what is your decision?
I wish.
Okay, so for Rob, it's not. It's okay. But what about for you other guys? Do you guys think it through in that meticulous order, where, you know, like when you're getting things done, you have to manage your energy first. You know, I think I forgot the exact concept, but you know, he only does 4 things per day. You know, he tries to close his open loops as much as possible.
Yeah.
Uzair, what's up?
I think yes, but I also don't think it's that. Maybe it's because it's like very similar to my type. I don't think it's like that complicated, right? It's just the gist of it is that anytime something comes up that you need to do, just write it down, right? That's the inbox. That's the SE, right? Just put it in inbox. Then whenever you have time, start filing it. And then whenever you need to do something, you want to do something, just look at that list, right? It's just I think to that level, I've always done it. I've always like had like these little like notepads of like to-do lists. Sorry, can't see it. But just like, oh, I thought about doing something. Let me just like write it down, and then I'll organize it later. You know what I mean? So
My stuff is everywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, I think to that level, I do it. I don't think it's particularly complicated. I think it's like I actually think it's like not meticulous, right? I think the SI version of it would be probably more like let's, as it comes in, let's organize it. This is just kind of like, let's just like dump everything you have to do in a, like going all the way from like doing your taxes to, I don't know, like buying milk is on the same list, right? It's kind of a little silly even.
Okay.
So yeah, I forgot what the question is exactly, but I think that, sure, I think that I'd probably do something like that. I'm curious to hear it from Manley, because you run a business, right? And so I'm sure you have a bunch of tasks that come up.
Yeah, I actually wanted to mention that. So I'll say that I don't know if I would do this as much if I didn't have a business and I didn't have to learn how to actually organize people and get them to do specific systems. But running a business has taught me how much I don't know. The worst part about my personality type, I've noticed, is that I assume that people know things, anything that they don't know. In fact, I'm so dumb that I assume that people know what I know at any given time, which is freaking weird. And I almost had to experience people not being able to do things that my brain thought was common sense. Like even things, if I mentioned it to you, like you guys would be like, why would we know how to do that? But it's like, wow, I had to learn that by this person ruining my business and losing tons of money. And then I was like, well, now I need to make a system. And then I would make like a pretty detailed system. And then I would realize like their brain skipped one TI step that I didn't write down. And then I was like, holy crap, this is frightening to me. Now I'm losing hope in humanity. And then I think that like turbo activated the Ni+Ti. And now I'm just like, when I finally arrive at it, this is actually something I've been having to learn. The first thing that happens to me when like a fire happens in business is something goes wrong, someone makes a mistake, a customer gets upset, they call Manley because he's the all-knower that knows everything. And then they're like, hey dude, like this is what happened. What do we do? My stupid idiot first thing that I used to do was come and fix it. And then I'd go out there and fix it like for the moment. And that was very SE of me. I'm like, oh, no problem. I fixed the momentary issue. And then it would happen again. I'm like, wow, okay, now I'm gonna have to learn how to actually build these systems, and I'm gonna have to learn how to blast. And I started building them out, and it gets absurdly meticulous. And I didn't realize how meticulous I really was with my Ni+Ti sleep until I did it and showed someone, and they were like, what the F is all this? And then I was like, oh, maybe I went overboard, but it helped. But it's like it's freaking hilarious. I literally like train, like, this is the thought you should have next. This is the thought you should have now. This is the next thought. Your customer will think this. If they think this, you respond this way. If they think this, respond this way. Get to that level. And I even like break out like, this is the action you should take if they say this. And it's almost like a strategy map of like, if this, then this, if this, then this. And I have to break that out. And I've done it for multiple parts of the business so far. And I've learned that I'm really good at that because once I go through the consume, I do double activated consume, and then I play with all my people and figure out kind of like where the missing parts are. I arrived at the Ni+Ti sleep, and it becomes building a system so that I never have to deal with the problem again. Because I've learned that's what my double masculine sleep looks like, is like, I will go out and expend energy like an idiot always, but I don't want to. I'm always like, man, I wish I could stay home, never talk to anyone, not do anything. That's like what my brain is trying to do, push on the sleep. But the systems get absurd. Like I could show you guys some examples and you'd be like, why the F did you do that, dude? Like, is that really necessary? And I would tell you, in fact, yes, it is. Like, people are weird. They're freaking weird. But yeah, that's my experience.
You're SETI, right, Manley?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a lot of SETI people tell me the word common sense, like, and you used it too. You're like, it's common sense. It's the SE. How could you not see the SE? Yeah, that was amazing. Wow.
It is.
I think actually what a lot of what you're describing is actually blast, because it's like, it's not creating a system for yourself, right? Because just like, it's creating a system for some other person who is like not going to think things through, who is like, and I think part of the reason why it's like is more difficult for the blast masters because they're so good at consume. It's like just taking the thing. How did you not see that? Or like, you know what I mean? So like, it's going to be like a lot of that. And so you really have to like build a system for, I don't want to say idiots, but just like people who don't care, who don't own the business, who don't, you know what I mean? Like aren't incentivized in the same way.
Yeah,
people
I feel like I try to do that.
I'm just saying, I'm also an idiot in other places, right? Just like if it's not my business and I'm getting paid not that much, also be like a dumbass about it, you know? So
Good save, man. Good save.
Yep. When I'm building these systems for myself, I treat myself like I'm the idiot because I'm like always leaving it. So I need to like figure out how to simplify it because I just like overcomplicate things and make it hard on myself to stick to.
yeah.
Yeah.
With sleep
That's a good
sleep
point.
last, I don't do any of this kind of stuff that you guys are talking about. I just blast. It's like when the thing needs to get done, I just jump in and do it. And I take little notes and I try to, you know, organize the important stuff, the urgent stuff to the top, and just jump on it and do it. And it's like everything kind of works out. It's like if something comes up, oh my God, I got to do this right now. I just jump in and do it. So
Yeah. I've actually been thinking about that a lot. Uzair, I know you said that like what I do, it seems like it's blast, but something that I've observed is that I'm not completely confident that blast is like a form of just if you create a plan and put it out to other people. I don't know if that's necessarily blast. Like I think blast is a little bit more simple and like more.
It's like I'm going to jump in and see. I probably already know what to do because I've had experiences. So I need to jump in to see. Oh, what am I missing? Oh, I need this. So I go out and then gather what I need, but I don't know what I need until I jump in. So I jump in, figure out, oh, okay, I know like 90%, there's this 10% over here I need. So I need to go gather that real quick. I jump out, but because it's like, why would I waste a bunch of time gathering when I already know like 90%? I can jump in and see, oh, where's that 10% I need? Then jump out, go get it, and then come back. So it's like,
right.
I'm always, that's what I'm always doing. Blast first is like jump in, figure out, oh, what do I need to know that I don't already know? Oh, okay, jump out. It's like,
yeah. It's about busting it out, getting it done, and then going back in real fast.
Totally, yeah.
I think some of the stuff that Manley was saying was really well explained. Thanks for the SD clearness. I think we really needed that. That's super awesome. Because like they always say that INFJs are the best at like controlling people or manipulating people, kind of like the Darren Brown example. But it's like it's almost like your SD sleep plans how people are gonna think based on their behavior, right? So the NF blast, manipulates someone's behavior pattern essentially, but you've thought it out in your head of how that specific blast would cause that specific sequence of thinking that you've already thought out. Because if you didn't think it out first, then it's going to be harder to get people to behave a certain way. So you do have to think out. It's kind of like you said, like people are like you took out one piece of line in that TI and suddenly it's completely different. People are confused now, right? So you do have to think out the whole thought sequence before you NF blast them to manipulate them to think that way. I don't know. Does that sound like accurate to you?
That's kind of how it feels, honestly. It really does feel like I almost need to have that Ni+Ti plan, like really detail oriented. And my TI is like super attached to the idea where it's like, it's a swing where I'm like, okay, I thought you guys could handle this because quote unquote common freaking sense because I'm SE savior. But then it's like, if I leave out that one line, you've proven to me that you are what I would like joke, like I'm going to say an idiot, but you've proven to me that you're incapable of thinking for yourself. So now I'm going to think for you and I'm going to draw this out. Like you need to freaking memorize this thinking process so that you can do that. And whenever you end up in an SE like context that requires this thought process, that's kind of what it looks like to me. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
I like how the word idiot's so abused in this interview. It seems to be like what, at least I know what you guys are thinking now, like the TI lead people or the TI people with TI. I don't know what you guys are thinking now.
Really, I'm the idiot because I assumed everyone knew everything. Like, what the F is wrong with me? I mean, what the?
Yeah, I call myself stupid more than anyone else, I think.
Yeah, jeez.
All right, it's all good. It's all good, guys. Okay, I lost my thought process now, but that was good. So another thing that I heard people with so before I jump into this question, I did notice something interesting with you guys. So I wish I had more other people with different sexual modalities coming in here because you guys do present your specific sexual modality. But I think Uzair, you're masculine, feminine, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so the difference between you guys is you guys have masculine, feminine NI versus Joyce, Roqb, and Manley have masculine NI. So I want to know what's the difference with your NT sleep processing when the NI is feminine. Okay, like they say that when you have masculine NI, when you plan for something that's going to happen in the future or something that you thought out in a sequence, it's very solid. It's not movable, right? But I'm gonna guess that for Uzair and Kevin, that it's definitely movable. Whatever you thought out in your head, it's flexible. It's not like concrete. So can you guys talk about that? Like, I just want to see. Let's start with Uzair first because he's like, he looks like he has something he wants to talk about. But yeah,
I want to hear what
No.
Uzair has to say. Yeah.
I just think it's funny because like who would not want a movable plan, right?
I know. Oh my God. Yeah. It's the
So,
greatest. Yeah. Totally.
F you guys.
But as in, do you guys really think that your plan is not movable? Like I would think that. What would it?
I think everyone's. Yeah. It has to be a little bit of movement.
Has to be.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I have demon
So-
masculine and I'm like an idiot. Once I arrive at the plan, I'm like, nope, no other option. This is it. We're doing it. And it rarely works.
Yeah, I mean, I can whatever. I can pat myself on the back. Yeah, I've I only go by the facts. Facts are what's real, and I make my plan around there so that it doesn't crumble. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it's like to have masculine. So I think I will say this. I think that the feminine OE is just much better at taking in like it's basically like kind of like if you look at I think the analogy is that if the OI is at the bottom, if you have feminine OE, it's like a wider funnel and it goes to a smaller point, and so you're actually taking in a lot of data in a like a not necessarily sequenced way. You're just like vacuuming things in, right? And then that goes into condenses into a smaller thing because you just have more data, right? Whereas I'm taking in probably like less data because it's like big blocks, right? It's not just like everything. And then the plan is also like not as condensed because there's just less data to go on. This is my theory. I don't know.
Any word from Kevin or Roqb or Joyce about, because I know Manley's, he has demon NI, so for him, once I came up with a plan, it's not gonna move because it freaking took me forever to get there. So you know what? Screw you guys. I'm just gonna stick with this plan. It's gonna work. I'm
always thinking of, the plan that's going to give me the least amount of chaos. It's like, okay, and it's got to be flexible. It's got to be all of a sudden there's some chaos. I need to be able to go around that and have alternate plans that are built in to get away from the chaos, basically. But I'm trying now to plan for possible chaos too, which that helps too. But it's just having feminine NI. It's like I can play around with the plan, move it around and be like, oh, this is the plan that is going to be best because I've logicked it out, and it's just being very flexible with it. It's like, how could you not have feminine NI? It's just nice. I don't know.
I like how
guys relate to this.
I like how Joyce was nodding and agreeing with Kevin about planning for chaos until Kevin said the word flexible, and then she just stopped, and because they know the masculine NI, right? So Joyce, can you talk about that thought process? Because yeah, you did the moment he said the word flexible, you kind of stopped, and so you have masculine NI. Can you talk about what you think instead? Because I can see that your thought process is, yes, you're planning for chaos, but the plan is not flexible then? What's happening here?
Well, that's a nice job looking at my body language, Kendrick. And so with Kevin mentioning how you're simulating routes it could take, and the less chaos the better, if it's bad chaos. And so you're trying to, you kind of believe with masculine and I, if things keep going down the way that they're going, they're going to end up like this. And then you can kind of like approximate as the situation's happening, what is the most likely thing that's going to be happening. And so there's this desire to kind of like whoop around chaos. Yeah, I related a lot to that, Kevin. With me, I guess like I am flexible, but I'm not flexible. So I anticipate things a lot, and I generally think that I can be right about those anticipations unless something major happens. So it's normally not me who's changing how I'm seeing the situation. It's normally the other party. So I guess I'm a little bit like Manley in that sense. You know, I'm more set in the plan, but I've spent my lifetime thinking about how that plan would intricately play out in specific ways. So it's like a more fleshed out, inflexible Manley plan, but it's like it's covered every possible route in that plan. So it feels exhaustive. It feels like a plan that's exhaustive in this, you know, figured out every exit door in the plan, and so when you considered everything, you kind of think that you know it. I don't know if that makes sense.
That seems very similar. It's like I'm here and this is the goal I'm trying to reach, and I'll know 2 or 3 good options to get there, and I'll be on the one that is the good one to me. And then if something blocks me, I'm like, oh, I got these 2 or 3 other ones over here. Let me just jump over here and I'll still get there. So that's how I see the feminine side of it. It's like, I'll just jump. It's like, I don't care. This plan I have is not written in stone. I'm just going to jump over here, and I'm still trying to get to the goal.
Yeah. That makes sense.
No. You're not going to do it, but yeah. No.
He doesn't agree.
She doesn't agree. Sounds good.
He's like, okay. And it's like a nervous thumbs up.
Oh, dang it. Demon FE can't like fake the FE.
I like it.
It's a great plan.
Rob, do you have anything to add for that? You know, because you have masculine and NI also, right?
I was just trying to figure out what SE gets in the way. Like I don't get it. What do you have to work around? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So they abuse the intuition too much. So now you're confused now.
Well, I guess they weren't being specific about what SE gets in the way. To me, it's just like you don't plan to that level of specificity. So like the sensory can just kind of be swapped out. So that's kind of how I see it, you know, with the feminine.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, man, because you're a double observer. So you probably not as you're probably more accurate when it comes to this. Yeah,
it is kind of hard, even as an intuition dom, to kind of follow like what does this mean, right? It's just like what is a plan? What would be a masculine NI plan? What would be a feminine NI plan, right? Like what does it actually look like, and how is it actually different, right? Because ideally, if your plan is more specific than it needs to be, to the point where it breaks, that's a bad plan, right? And then and vice versa, right? If your plan is not as specific as it could have been to avoid things that you could have foreseen, then that's also not a good plan, right? So just a good plan is a good plan, you know? Like so it's kind of hard to understand like why there should be variations if you're planning well. I don't know.
Can I give you guys an ST example of an ITI plan that someone like me would come up with? No one's responding. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was waiting for it.
I just wanted to make sure you guys could hear me and we're good. Okay, so in business, that's what I spend probably most of my time planning for. I am constantly trying to make projections, financial projections for my business. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen a year from now, a month from now, every quarter. I'm just trying to figure out at all times. If I was to make an NITI plan for, let's say, okay, I want to grow my business by $1 million. I want to grow my business by $1 million in revenue this year. What is it going to require for me to accomplish that in my business? What do I have to do? In order to produce $1 million a year, I need to break out how many sales I need to make, my average job size, the percentage of the sales that I need to make. Let's say on average, a salesperson can close 30% of the estimates that they go out to. and our average job size is 3,000 or 4,000 a year. If they close 80,000 a month, then they're going to be able to ultimately sell like $1 million a year. So then my plan has to break out like, okay, I need to hire another salesperson. I need to generate 15 estimates a week for someone to close that amount of jobs at that revenue so that they can close $80,000 a month. And then I have to break out, okay, how am I going to generate those leads through marketing? What avenues am I going to use? If I hire like a door-to-door marketer, how many leads can they generate per month? And how many are they going to actually get to go out and become an estimate? How many of those people are going to cancel? I have to break out all of the conversion rates and the factors that go into that so that I can ensure that a certain amount of estimates actually go out and the salesperson actually goes out and sells them. And then it becomes that number of estimates. And then I can actually produce them on the back end. And then I have to essentially go from marketing, sales to production to make sure each facet of the business has enough individuals that can produce that value. So it ultimately becomes a certain dollar amount, which is for me, the pure ST in my business is dollars in my bank account. Dollars. I think like cash is the perfect ST example of a plan coming to fruition in real life.
It's my favorite ST too.
Yeah, cash money, Brett. So my problem is that whenever I make a plan, where it fails is that I make assumptions about humans and what they're capable of. So I might assume something about, okay, I like my brain turns humans into like cogs. Like this is just a machine that can produce these numbers for me. That's what's going to happen. So I'll make mistakes on like, oh, this is how much I had to train the person to get them to do what I wanted. This is the mistakes they could potentially make that would cause them not to meet the plan. So what happens to me is my NI plan stays the same. I am going to reach those numbers. I will reach those numbers. What's going to change is what type of person fits into those spots. I might have to bring in new people, remove those people, or I need to train them so that they can produce the value that I need. My plan typically, like I said, the mistake comes in when I make a wrong assumption about what each of those variables, which in this case is a human, is capable of, because my brain struggles a little bit with that feminine FE. It's just a turbo, it's a demon somehow where I can play with people, but when it comes to actually understanding what a human is capable of, I make mistakes on that all the time. But that's what like an NITI plan might make like look like for me. And I kind of rambled, but I like break all that out 100% so that I can understand exactly what I'm going for. And those numbers and the variables are going to stay the same. I'm going to force that person to fit into the plan so that everything works like I want it to. And then, like I said, the SE is movable, so I can shift around the objects, which are, in this case, the people. But the plan is going to stay the same. You are going to sell this amount. Otherwise, you don't fit into the plan. I'm sorry, type thing. That's typically how it works for me.
Dude, that was so perfectly explained. Like that was the clearest, like, I don't know how to say it. It's just, it was so clear. It was good. So it looks like your masculine NI, it gets in trouble when you're doing the planning process for how you're going to get the dollars in your pockets, in your bank account, is making the wrong projection, essentially, especially in the human side of things because of the FE. I guess that's where, like, I guess my type, you know, I have NEFI, right? So for me, I'm more like a social scientist. Like I look at people's FIs, I gather people's FI. So so for you, it's like looking at the capability of the person. That's where you're having trouble with. Like you don't know what they're capable of. So I guess the TI is good at the things side of things. You know, like the systems that you've created. It sounds so perfect to me, like the way you described it. I guess that this is important. That's why it's important to team up with other people, because then we have different functions, different animals, and they all have different usage. The last question I have for everyone for today, this is the last question, is optimizing. So I want to get everyone's perspective of optimizing, because I noticed that people with NITI love optimizing. So Manley already talked about optimizing his business, you know, trying to figure out which part of his business needs upgrading to maximize dollars in his bank account, right? But I want to see it but he's an EP, right? So he wants to gather the cash, right? So the ST, right? So I want to see what everyone's what are you trying to optimize? Like, what do you want to optimize? So for Manley, optimizing the gathering, right? So if I'm to guess, like the INFJs here, they want to optimize the least amount of chaos, and then for Rob, it's gonna be optimizing how to find himself better, and then for Uzair, it's like how to make friends, I guess. I don't know. Like, so how do you guys optimize? Like, what are you guys optimizing? Let's start with Kevin here. Like, what are you optimizing as an INFJ? In your specific INFJ, you're like the cranked up INFJ. So go ahead.
This is a spur of the moment. One thing I've seen lately, what I'm trying to do is with I'm married. We're about to have our 27th anniversary in like 10 days. When we have disagreement,
27th kid or something.
Yeah, right. That's what I need, right? No, that's too much chaos.
Too much.
So
Yeah.
when we have disagreements, usually it would go poorly on my end. But now what I've started to do is I see that I'm being triggered in some way. And I'm like, this is an opportunity for us to NT understand what is causing this. So it's bringing a completely different mindset to our interactions with each other. It's like normally we would, say something and disagree, and I would be mad and leave the situation and go think. Now it's like, wait, what's happening here? I know what my functions are, and I typed my wife. So I'm like, okay, what are we doing? What just happened here? Oh, I'm perceiving that you just, took a shit on my TI. Oh, but that's not really what's happened here. You just said a thing because you're coming at it from a different set of functions. Oh, okay. So it's like, that's what I'm trying to optimize is our relationship. It's like, oh, and I'm bringing that to other relations. My boss at work, it's like, oh, I think he's SITE. Oh, so it's like, I see when I'm being triggered and it's like, okay, what's happening right now? What function? Oh, I'm seeing something this way. He's seeing it that way. Oh, okay. So it's like all of these relationships are becoming better because I'm bringing a different mindset into it. It's like, I want this to go smoothly, where in the past it didn't, there'd be like, oh, I perceive that my identity is being shit on right now, so I'm frustrated or whatever. Now it's like, wait a minute, that's not what's happening at all. So that's really the thing I'm trying to optimize at the moment, basically.
All right, thanks, Kevin. So Kevin's optimizing focus is relationship, more on the people side. What about you, Joyce? What are you trying to optimize, and how do you optimize? Like, what are you doing to optimize?
Yeah, Kendrick, I thought you were right on the money when you were like, IJs want to optimize to get as little chaos as possible. So I think that most chaos is caused by a lack of planning. It's because people didn't plan in for the chaos, so then the chaos happens naturally. There's a quote. It says like, a lack of planning on your part does not equal an emergency on my part. Or like, the thing is, a lot of like things can turn chaotic just because people forget to factor in some things, and then now you're left with all of the shrapnel from a poorly thought out situation. And it's almost like, sometimes they didn't fully NT it out. They didn't fully think it through. So you're left with all of these like loose ends, this chaos reigning free range because of that. I guess I try to optimize things so people have a good time, so they get along. I want people to be having fun so that they can have that there's a good atmosphere, people are enjoying themselves, there's like comfort and emotional comfort, that's what I mean, between people, so yeah. And also that there's no houses on fire. Sorry, this is so vague. You're like, oh wait, I'm really jealous of Manley right now and his ST clearness. I'm just painting everything in terms of vagaries. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Joyce. That's good. I like how you're also optimized the fun factor. Like, like when you're having like let's say a social gathering and stuff, you try to optimize to see like what's the best way for everyone to be comfortable, to have fun, to enjoy themselves. So I think that's really nice. That's a really nice way to use the NT sleep to optimize the FE also. Optimizing planning to prevent chaos. That's I think it's kind of funny. I think it's mostly like an IJ thing because for other people, chaos is not a problem. So they don't like you're thinking they didn't think it through. That's why the chaos happened. But in my head, I'm thinking they didn't think it through because they don't care if chaos happens. It's like whatever, it's like it's like it's not a big deal. We don't care, Oh, chaos. Oh, whatever. It's like so. And for some of us, we don't have NT sleep either, right? So it's even worse. So we not only do we not care about chaos, it's like I didn't even think it through to begin with. Let's go with Rob next. What do you optimize? Is it so? I heard earlier you were talking about like your universal framework of understanding and your internal hardware. So what are you optimizing in your life? Is it just yourself or what are all the stuff?
So yeah, I was kind of spacing out during Kevin, so I'll have to watch this back to try and figure this out for myself. Thank you for going first, Kevin. What I was kind of feel like I'm optimizing is sort of similar to what Joyce was saying, which is interesting because she's lead sleep, but I feel like I'm optimizing things for people to enjoy in the SF. So I feel like it's a lot of just trying to make experiences smooth and enjoyable. So I was thinking of like a metaphor of like a board game or something like that, where you're creating like this space where there's like rules and the rules like make sense, so then people can just like have a good time experiencing this logical framework that makes sense, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing with the website too, where I'm like thinking through these things and trying to make sure that they make sense for people, so that they don't have the difficulties that maybe I had when I was working my way through the system. So same thing, like if I'm going to take the time to like go and learn this thing, I might as well like try and help other people learn it and find enjoyment there too. So that's a lot of what I'm doing.
All right, thanks, Rob. I think my takeaway from you is it seems like a lot of ENFJ types likes to optimize the user experience for people. Like that seems to be a what do you call it? Like the main focus. I do think that you're doing good in general because at the start of the interview you said that you are updating your internal hardware. So I think it's important to not just optimize for your saviors but your demons as well. I think if you work on both your biggest demon and your savior and you optimize both, I think that's when you're going to be unstoppable. You seem like you're doing both, so that's awesome, man. Let's go with Uzair. So Uzair, what are you optimizing in your life?
I think I relate to everything everyone said. I think I generally try to optimize. It's kind of sad to not have to waste resources, right? Like whether it's like time, why would I not go take the shortest route somewhere, or why would I spend the most money if I can spend less money, or like, et cetera, right? I think I don't know why I would probably optimize for yeah, saving time, money, maximizing fun, connection, all of that sort of stuff. Like I think these guys explained it way better. Like now that Rob mentioned it, I do like if I'm in a group, I do care about like let's just set up the kind of rules of the game so that everyone can kind of be relaxed and like connect, right? You don't want to like, you want everybody's incentives to be aligned, and I think that's like sometimes that takes some work to do. That's like very like not ST. What's an example of that? What's an example of that? Just like, for example, like let's say if you're going out to, let's say you're on a trip, you kind of want to make sure everybody's hungry at the same time, right? And so everybody wants, everybody's kind of aligned in that way, and so that we can all kind of like enjoy. Otherwise, it would suck if like, I don't know, someone grabs a snack on the side, and then later on when we're all trying to eat dinner, they're like, oh, I'm not really hungry, right? That's a little bit annoying. So if you want to kind of optimize for everyone to have fun, sometimes you have to align people's incentives to kind of like I don't know, align people's incentives. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think that's about it. I'm sure I optimize for a bunch of other things. I think I optimize for like, I don't know. I think that's good enough.
I like how you stop yourself there, but it's all good, man.
That's some OI. It's like, nah.
Yeah.
Gotta cut it.
Manley, do you want to add in something about what you're optimizing in your life right now? I know you talked about your business already earlier, but do you want to add it anymore, or is that good? Your microphone is off. Sensory.
Freaking gosh dang, man. I need to use that sensory, man. Yeah, so something I noticed that's interesting is it seems like everyone, like ultimately with that SEFE, it seems like in some way or another, they're all optimizing for like a positive experience for the people around them. I'll say that I think ultimately that's probably what my performance is. When it comes to my business doesn't succeed unless ultimately there's profit at the end of the game. Otherwise, everyone gets fired. So something I've been thinking about is I'll joke around, and when I'm talking in ST language, I'll tell people like I gotta get cash, otherwise it's all going downhill. But every time I do it, ultimately what I'm thinking of, it's almost like the reason that I started the business and tried to get it going, and the reason that I have to get this ST performance in the end is because I need everyone to have a positive experience with their company. Whether it's our employees, I need them to enjoy their life and be successful, or our customers, I need them to enjoy our life and be successful. It does feel like it's almost like the positive user experience with everyone around me. Everything I'm doing is to try and figure out how to build a system, not just in my business, but in my personal life and in the world around me, the community, how to get them to have a positive user experience. I really like that term you used, whether, yeah, I think that's honestly it. Like I want people to actually enjoy their life, and I want it to actually work. I think there's a lot of experiences out in the world where people feel like they're having a positive experience, but people end up, it's almost like a positive user experience debt where they're not actually having a good experience. It's just taking from the future in order to experience something now, rather than building a sustainable system long term that will give everyone the best life possible. Yeah, I think that's about all I want to say there.
All right, cool, man. That's really good. It seems to me that you guys are all universal at optimizing whatever it is that you're working on to make other people's life better, like in general. Because it's a bit different from the ST sleep people, where their main goal is numbers for self. So it's not, because your internal identity, it's not ST, it's NT, right? So it's like intelligence, logic, puzzle solving. So, but what are you puzzle solving? It seems like you're puzzle solving the human experience. It's very interesting how you're using T to solve F, So I find that very it's almost contradictory, but it works. So it's like a weird contradiction, in my opinion. But hey, whatever works, I guess. So does anyone have any final comments before we wrap up this interview, this discussion? So can everyone just throw in whatever? This time I'm not gonna go around and pick people. Just chime in. Like, what if there's something or takeaways from the other people that you've heard about anti-sleep that you didn't even think about before, but now you're like, oh, yeah, that's like Manley's talking about, like Manley's like very ST clear, right, with the NT stuff. So so what are some of your guys' takeaway from each other here?
I really liked it when Manley was talking about sustainability and about how, his end is wanting to create like a sustainable, positive user experience. Yeah, I related to that. Because that's like what a plan is, right? It's to create something that's ultimately sustainable.
Yeah.
Got it. Anyone else? Uzair, did you learn anything from anyone, or you already know everything? I'm just
I did already know everything, but it's good to have it confirmed. No,
just to know you're a god.
No, it was insightful to hear everybody's. Actually, I find the contrast between what you're doing and like what it kind of feels like I guess we're all in the same quadrant to be different. That I find that's the thing that I keep on coming back to, like, because like you ask a question and then we reply and then you kind of condense it to something, right? You do the OI, and I'm kind of like, what are you doing, right? Because it's like so not what I relate to, because it's just like, because you're doing like the TESI thing, right? Which is just like, oh, it's just like oh, this person, you do this, right? It's just like that is your FI identity or something, right? And just like I'm like so it's so like foreign to, I don't know if you guys relate to that, right? It's just like, oh, Rob, like that makes sense because you're an EJ. And so your thing is this, right? It's like TESI is like, I don't relate to any part of, I would never even think that, you know what I mean? So like, I think that's the thing that, that's been like standing out of like how different quadras, they're doing different things. And like TE, you're right. Like, I think what TE is like really good at is that it is good at like kind of like scoping out like the competencies of the tribe, right? I don't think that I'm probably tracking that. So I think that's my observation.
Got it.
Yeah, it's like you're focused on one logic block or something. So when he jumps over to something else, it's like, what?
Yeah.
We weren't talking about that at all.
Yeah, well, we're kind of doing a TE stuff right now because everyone's sharing their TI, so it kind of becomes a TE because now you're like sharing your thought process, which is what TE is. You know, obviously your TI is personal, you know, but you know, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Kevin. Or Rob,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, I don't think about the EJ-ness enough, probably, because you just like throw it out there. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense, I guess. I just wasn't thinking about it. So
yeah, and right, and I was also not thinking that like when I heard all the answers, it's just like I was just comparing to like when I heard the answers and what I thought, and then like your reaction to it, it was a very like a different quadra. Like I really felt because like we're all of us are completely different, right? On the completely different axis on both the decider and observer axis. So it's interesting the difference that we take from, you know, like the what people are saying. I think that's been
Uzair's NTing this conversation right now.
Yeah.
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just appreciating hearing everyone else's sleep because, you know, I have it last. So it's like, it's nice for me to see what everyone else is doing. It's like, oh, okay, I can do that too. So I value hearing all of your opinions on this. This has been really great.
Yeah.
It is super interesting to see what Uzair is talking about, Kendrick. It's interesting to see how you're like NETE is collecting the patterns. It's like you're taking all of our NITI and collecting the patterns from all of us, and you're like condensing it down, like Uzair was saying, and you're like SIFI. It's almost like you're like stereotyping us in a very particular way, in a good way. But it's like, oh, okay, all these people, they equal this. Like that's what this quadra does. Their NITI sleep is SEFing out in the world. Like that's what it does. Something along those lines. Which is like, dude, you know what's funny is I didn't particularly think about that. It's almost like but it makes sense. The NITI is going to serve the SEFE, or the SEFE serves the NITI, or vice versa, you know, with any of the functions or animals.
Yeah, I'm using my NETE to like gather all your NITIs, and I'm gonna funnel it into my SITE later on. So that's what I'm working on right now. You guys are all complete. Like I know you guys have the same functions and whatnot, different order, but you guys are completely different. You know, it's super interesting. Like for Uzair, like I noticed with him, like it seems like a lot of the answers are like no brainer to him. It's like, yeah, no shit, you know.
He's bored.
You know, yeah,
boring. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's fine because he's you know, he's an IP NT first, so it's gonna be like, yeah, like, but then what he's fascinated about is like, oh, what's like the tribe interaction like? What's going on here? You know, it's like, you know, like people are like joking around, like what Manley said that he got away with it, like, oh, you know, like, so it's kind of cool to see what everyone's trying to puzzle. So I guess for Uzair, he's trying to puzzle the tribe itself. Manley, do you have any takeaways from like your peers here?
It's interesting to see how I really appreciate Kevin mentioning how he feels. I think he's the most interesting to me here, because even though he's blast first, he has that sleep last, and it's really interesting for me. I'm like super intrigued by blast people, obviously, because I have blast last. So I'm like, how
the rest of us are demon blast, right?
Right. Yeah. Only Kevin has Savior blast. Yeah.
So I'm just like super intrigued by it, because it's just like you can just say things and do things, and it seems like it's weird because as an EP, I'm supposed to be like the impulsive one, but when I see blast people do stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're just gonna go do that? Like, holy crap. But then like it's a different kind of impulsive, quote unquote, impulsive action. So it's really interesting for me to see that take place, especially because it works a lot of the time, which is awesome.
It works so much that it's like, why would you not do it? It's like, at least do it and then see that it didn't work, and then you learn from it, the next time. So
That's true.
Taught me
I
a
think
lot, bro.
that's objectively the right way to do it, right? When you're describing it, I was like, crap, that is true. Because it's not a blast without consume. It's just like blast first and then consume what you.
because you've consumed your whole life, so you have all that to look at. You don't have to like consume right now. You can consume later.
Good one.
It's like when Dave and Shan say that you're most fascinated by people who have like your last function as your first function, like blast first versus blast last. Like Manley's like, wow, Kevin's so interesting.
I like Kevin so much. Likeable Kevin. And you got such
later.
nice ST hair. Yeah, we can talk later. Check
I'm the
my
cop
NF hair out, bro.
Yeah, Kevin might
Swap
get
the roles.
He might get sprung if you take off your hat and like loosen up that bun, like it's just,
I'll take it off. You guys don't know what my hair looks like.
yeah.
It's like
Well, you're also an EP, right? So you're gonna be interested about the IJ, right? Because it's like the the opposite, just like Rob and Uzair would like.
Yeah, I actually found Rob the most interesting. Sorry, guys.
Oh.
Like a popularity contest now, like an SF popularity contest.
I'm most impressed by Rob's website. That crap is good,
Oh,
bro.
yeah.
It's
I hope you
great.
saw my
Thanks,
comment,
man.
Rob.
It's awesome.
I told your website's better than the LP website. Don't tell them I said that.
They don't have a whole lot on their website that other than stuff you can pay for. But mine's free,
Indirect
by the way, but everybody.
It's all Rob and his user experience.
Just like Kendrick's awesome YouTube channel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There you go, Kendrick.
spreading the FE around. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. I'm feeling like weird now because like, oh, too much FE. Like
It's too much FE.
Yeah, like,
Hey, let's do more encouragement.
like I'm getting
Kendrick, you're
uncomfortable.
smart. Kevin, you're smart.
You guys are all great.
You're all
I
smart.
appreciate it.
And then Joyce, do you have any takeaway before we wrap up this discussion?
Yeah. So many takeaways. I liked it when Uzair, he was talking about a long-term and short-term, and I thought that was a pretty cool thing to look into. And I kind of like extrapolated that to masculine and feminine too. I wonder if masculine NI is even more long-term than feminine NI too, possibly.
No.
All right, cool. So thanks guys for coming out today. I really appreciate it. Got like shitload of notes here that I'm gonna have to narrow
down. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do that
narrow
outside.
down. Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
gonna turn this all into a 5-minute video.
Yeah.
yeah. 10 minutes. It's gonna be a 10-minute video probably.
You're gonna narrow it down? Gosh dang. I practiced so much blasting.
Best of luck.
Good luck,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's messed up because it's a 10-minute video, but it'll take me like 8 hours to do it. It's like it's so
Wow.
annoying.
Wow.
It's like I hate it. Yeah. All right.
That's how I feel about cooking.
yeah, meal prepping is like that. It is annoying. Yeah. All right, guys. So thanks again for coming out, and have a good night, and we'll see you around.
Thanks. See you
Bye,
guys.
Peace, Brett.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.